Tracy.
Okay.
Just I'm probably going to sign in, so just to let you know.
Okay.
Okay. Meeting of the Auburn Industrial Development Authority will come to order. First order of business, roll call.
Oh, let's see. Mr. Dacey,
Here.
Mr. Andre, he's absent. Mr. Beer,
Here.
Mr. Cuddy,
Here.
Mr. Giannatino,
Here.
Ms. Wilbur McLeod,
Here.
Mr. Lavarnway, absent. Mr. Gasper,
Here.
Mr. Gravius.
Here.
Okay.
Okay, the minutes for November 18th, the audit committee meeting minutes and the regular meeting minutes. Have a motion, please?
So moved, Roger.
Gwen,
Second, it's Gwen.
and do I have a second?
Gwen.
Oh, Gwen, okay. Are there any changes or additions to the minutes? Tracy, does our quorum cover the members that were here in November?
Yeah, I think we should be okay.
Okay. If there's no changes or additions, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions carried. Bills and communications.
We have the pilot payments that need to be dispersed. So we have the Gen West Courier that paid, JBJ Real Property, and WST 33 has paid. So those come to a total of $212,512.31, and those can be dispersed as of tomorrow.
Okay.
Then we have the Chamber of Commerce membership for $275 that needs to be paid. And then we have the TGW Phase 2 payment of $36,500 that also needs to be paid.
Okay. I'm not going to be available to sign those tomorrow, Taylor.
Okay, when would you be available?
How about Taylor gives you a call and
Friday.
schedules a time?
Pardon
That
me?
works.
Yeah.
I'll call you,
What's that?
Jen. That's fine.
Okay. All right. Is there a motion on the floor to accept the bills?
This is Jeff. I'll move.
This is Jimmy.
And okay. Is there any discussion?
I just have a question.
Okay. Is there any discussion?
I just have a question for a billing.
So I will defer to the TGW crew who is here, but my understanding is that they've billed based on the minimum, and then we'll bill any additional based on time spent. So we don't know exactly what that will be yet, but it will not exceed the top end of that range. Is that right, Lisa,
I mean, that's
Gavin?
fine.
Yep, that's a perfect summary. Thanks, Tracy.
Okay, so we can expect another billing coming in on Phase 2 as well.
Probably, yeah. And the only instance is if that, the time spent lands exactly on that, the lower end of the range. So that's TBD based on the full extent of the project once we get through Phase 2.
Hey, do you expect that'll be billed in December? I'm just curious for our annual reporting. Whether that
Right now, tentative launch is scheduled for January for the website, which is the majority of the phase 2 program.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
If there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions carried. The report of the treasurer.
The profit and loss budget performance report for November 2020 is page 8 of your package. And I was just going to cover it briefly. Since this is the last meeting of the year, I'll give a projection for the year. You can see in the left-hand column of the report, November 20 is the activity for the month, which is fairly minimal. So I then would give your attention to the middle column, January to November 20, which is the year-to-date activity. And you can see that our revenues are at 180,000, and I expect that's where we'll end up unless we can bring something in the next 15 days. Regarding the expenses, you can plan on the fact that we just talked about most of the expenses are close to budget. On the contract services number, you see year-to-date 15,000. We will incur another 5,000 in December for our admin services. You can see marketing and promotion, which is the branding project through the end of November is $1977.50. We just approved a bill for $36.5, so that total number right now is anticipated to be at the end of the year at over 56,000, 56,250. And that is, those are the, so the two main items you'll see in you can anticipate in December is 5,000 for contract services and 36.5 for the branding project. So we've got another about 41,000 of expenses coming in. We show a profit of 134,000. So I would say that profit, when we get to the end of the year, will, or the net income, the bottom line, shall we say, should be closer to somewhere between 90 and 95,000. So as much as I'd like to say that 134,801 of profit is the year, we're going to be incurring some in December, which will bring that all expected. These are all expected expenses. And so you can plan on a net income, like I said, in a range of 90 to 95,000. So it's we'll wrap it up in January when the numbers are finals, but obviously it's a having planned a break even year of no profit or loss. The impact of the Tessie project and the Newport project has been very positive and puts us in a strong position going into 2021. Any questions? That's it. That's it for my presentation.
We have a motion on the floor to accept the budget report and balance sheet.
Here. I'll first.
Terry? Okay, second, please.
Second.
Okay, Brandon. If there's no further discussion or any discussion, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions carried. Thank you. Now, the pilot disbursement report.
Right now, it looks like we're down to 7 pilot payments left. They have until December 31st to submit their payments. After that, they will receive their 1% late fee charge. So right now, the ones that will be dispersed that just came in will be the Gen West Courier, ABJ Properties, and WST 33 LLC. Those are the 3 for this month that will have to go out.
Okay. Is the, did a letter go out to remind the delinquents that they have to the end of the year?
No, one can go out for that. So I can
think
get one of those out tomorrow.
we normally do send a letter just to remind them so that they don't get, we get our money and we can disperse it, and we don't have to worry or fool around with the penalties. Preferably, we would rather have them all paid up by the end of the year than have to go looking for them. So
Okay.
just
we can
a
get that.
reminder that there is a penalty if you don't pay it.
Great.
Okay. Anybody have any questions on the pilot disbursement report?
I guess I would just have a quick question. If we do receive the payments in the next week or so from those who haven't paid us yet, would you anticipate that we'll make our disbursement prior to the end of the year, just to clean up the amount that's on the payable listing?
No, I would have to bring it back to the board.
Okay, understood.
Yeah, this happens pretty much every year, but
Yep.
it all kind of evens out in the end on the balance sheet, so it's not typically an issue for auditing purposes.
It hasn't been lately, no.
No. Last year was pretty clean, as I recollect.
But we don't want to fall back either. We, get back into the way things used to be. So we want to stay on top of it. That's for sure. Okay. Unfinished business, the presentation from TGW on place-based brand research.
Great. So Tracy, I believe, has set me up to be able to share my screen. We are going to try to keep this as brief as possible, but also as insightful as possible. So we're going to go through a pretty comprehensive report and summary, and then talk to y'all about the recommendations and the tactics that we think are going to be most suited for Auburn as we look into 2021. So I'm going to share my screen.
And just a setup before you're kind of overwhelmed seeing a 90 page presentation. Don't worry, we're not going to go through 90 pages of research and documentation tonight. Sorry if you were hoping for that, but I know probably at 5:20 nobody was hoping for that. But really just going through again kind of a process update in terms of where we are and showing some of the key findings, and then giving kind of a sneak preview of the direction that we're going from a marketing and brand perspective.
Thanks, Gav.
Mm-hmm.
So these are the main sections of the summary and report. It also gives a good window into the different steps that are required when it comes to a place branding process. I'm going
Lisa,
to
sorry to interrupt. I don't know if others are seeing the screen. I'm not seeing it being presented right now.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let's see.
Still loading.
Were you able to see it for a moment?
Yes. Yeah, I saw it
I think
pop
it
up real quick.
started to share, yeah.
Okay. How about now?
Nope.
I'm gonna turn it off and turn it back on again, Tracy, one more time here. Okay, how about
There it
now?
is.
All right. Wonderful. So these are basically laid out in a 4-part sections for the different phases of the place branding process and the different things that are required as we go through what essentially we've been doing over the past few months. Just gonna go through here. We talk a little bit objectives and overview. We will absolutely be sharing this with everyone. So, you know, just given the time sensitivity, we wanted to at least be able to talk a little bit on some of the key areas. For the research phase, phase 1, these are the tactics that we engaged in order to kind of get to the place where we are now. We did a lot of qualitative work from in-depth focus groups to one-on-one interviews. We did several info sessions with different leaders and business owners. We did our own industry market research analysis, used existing research that many of you folks had at your fingertips, which was super helpful for us as well, and an industry landscape review. We did a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, which is always a really beneficial exercise. A comparison analysis, and then a general review of the digital presence as a whole of Auburn. So those were the steps during the different research phases within. We really feel like we learned so much and had a great time just talking to so many different residents and the business owners and different leaders within and stakeholders within the city. A lot of people had a lot of really positive and upbeat things to say. It's a beautiful small city with a lot of history. Gwen, that was you. And then we continue on. So when you do take a look at this, this is broken out into different, we have the section here where we just, you know, give some feedback and information on just the residents specifically, and then the small business owners and different leaders in the area. So we kind of broke it out that way. There's obviously a lot of crossover when it comes to those two entities as well. But, you know, essentially, Auburn business owners collectively mentioned their desire to be part of the city's future growth and that they, quote, want in and they do not want to miss out. And that was something that we just kept coming back to time and time again. So just really, really beneficial exercise and really made us feel very confident in the different directions that we've been working with Tracy and Devin on.
We definitely think when going through this, it'll be a great kind of reflective process to read through in depth. You know, to Lisa's point, a lot of positives, but you know, a lot of folks really not holding back in terms of thoughts and feelings and wishes in particular. So I think a really good exercise to, you know, spend a good chunk of time to read through the quotes and some of the thinking and feeling directionally. It was really a great experience.
Yeah. The SWOT analysis, we broke out everything into different categories, and you know, often something that is perceived as an opportunity can also, in a different way, also be considered a weakness. And so, taking those different paradigms and making them work and figuring out, you know, what are the most, you know, successful ways that we can think about Auburn, and really just kind of cutting through to get to the root of everything here. So. We did some industry analysis, which was really, really productive. And we also threw in some really great success stories and insights at the end of this section, just for you folks to be able to refer to. I'm sure most of it you already are aware of, but you know, there was a lot of really cool success stories that we thought, well, this will be really helpful to be able to have this and know that this was something that happened. And you know, we can call, you know, Grant Kyle, or we can call, you know, whomever, just to, you know, Dawn and Mark, obviously, and, you know, they'll be able to talk about their positive experience and have some great things to say. The next section is the branding strategy. And I think what I'll probably just do is jump right into the personas. Now, the personas are tentative right now, but what we've been able to do is narrow it down to 4 primary target audiences. It's not the only types of folks that we think that, you know, are going to make the most sense to speak with, but this was from our research and from the different aspects that we considered, we landed on these. And I know Terry's excited to take a look at this.
And one thing we should mention too, in terms of, you know, the setup for these, to Lisa's point, 4 main individual personas, but you'll see, you know, down below many different attributes and characteristics that fall within each. So the idea here is, when we're talking about brand development and then moving into the marketing world and those tactics, you know, speaking to 4 primary brand personas allows us to kind of have a spider web or a trickling effect to meet other groups of individuals. So that's where, you know, kind of the descriptions fall within each of these.
Yep. Yep. So a relocation focused persona, where it's somebody that may be a little bit younger, millennial, but it has a flexible work style, maybe looking to sort of get out of the city life, maybe looking to stretch out a little bit, and, you know, has a high skill set and it is career focused. We think there's a lot of promise here. They may have some connections to Auburn, and they may have a significant other as well to take into consideration. They're going to expect, you know, modern amenities, and, you know, as a millennial, having, you know, a certain level of expectation in terms of food and beverage availabilities, which is obviously something Auburn is really doing a great job of. The next is the adventurer, CEO / biz owner type. You know, this is somebody that is a little bit older than the millennial group. They may be an outdoor enthusiast. They appreciate the culinary aspect of the Finger Lakes and realize that a lot is happening in that regard in Auburn. They have an opinionated significant other, and, you know, they're really have their finger on the pulse in terms of what are my incentives, what are my tax breaks, and are ready to, you know, play ball in terms of like, what can New York State do for me? And then the last 2 are CNY roots. And this person may be thinking about retiring at some point soon. They may have ties to the area. They may have an aging parent. But they're thinking about maybe finding a place that's a little bit on the quieter side, but still has all the, you know, the modern amenities that somebody would expect from a larger sized city. And then the last, we see so much promise from an ag standpoint, and the intersection of technology and just the way that that particular industry is growing and changing so much every day. We see a lot of promise with, you know, folks that are in that industry but are doing very different things. They're entrepreneurial. They know all about the Finger Lakes and may have a connection to it. But they understand how wonderful the soil and the earth is here in the Auburn area and want to take advantage of that, but they don't have the infrastructure. But the good news is that Auburn does. So again, I wish we could talk much more about that and dive in even deeper, but that's just a little brush stroke. All right, so now we're kind of getting to the heart of things here. The proposed mission statement that we've come up with is Auburn is a forward-thinking city taking pride in our roots. Auburn appreciates its rich culture, tight-knit community, and its multi-industry business economy like no other small city can. And again, we'll be sending this to you, so definitely things for you to look at and digest. Really, really exciting with reading material. Talk a little bit about the values, the brand values for place branding, and tone and brand voice. We see Auburn as always sincere, independently wired, willingness to evolve and change, firmly loyal and proud, welcoming and approachable. And then from a tone standpoint, hopeful, charming, honest, and a make it happen attitude. So the idea with this is that this type of messaging will really be instilled across all the different materials that are created, across the different campaigns, and really just become, you know, just what Auburn sounds like. And then quickly, we will show you the creative that we're working on right now. So this is the primary type logo and tag that we've come up with. The color is definitely an ode to the area. We didn't want to depart from that. We think that it's really important, and know that it's just so, you know, just such a big part of the area, and there's so many things that already have this color representative. It's a little bit slightly lighter than some of the maroon that you often see throughout Auburn, but we really think that this stands strong. It's an ode to Auburn's very, very important history, and also with the serifs and some of the different curling of the different letters, this hand-drawn type is very much forward-thinking and looking ahead to the future as well. Similarly, in saying that, that's the tagline, you know, we really wanted to find a way to, you know, pay homage to the rich, rich history of Auburn, but we've got this intersection and dichotomy of like wanting to make sure that Auburn is positioned as, hey, we are making it happen. We're getting things done here. It's a great place to, you know, try something different and make it happen. That's what our community is about, and we're affordable, and, you know, all of the attributes that we've been talking about right along. So where possibility takes root, we felt really, really implied both of those things. And of course, the little New York mark to the right there. The primary colors, we're looking at.
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
That last slide, the one thing that we've a theme that we followed for a long time, and it's taken root in Auburn, is history's hometown.
Yes.
Do you plan on incorporating that into this along with the logo?
I think what we want to do. Oh, go ahead, Gavin.
Yeah, I can just speak to that a little bit. And the history's hometown really has traditionally come into play on the tourism side, and really focuses obviously on the historical and cultural sites commission and you know, that kind of ownership in conjunction with the Equal Rights Heritage Center from a tourism perspective. Really, you know, from the very beginning wanted to get away from that approach, just because it is kind of just looking in the rearview mirror, I guess is the simplest way to put it, in terms of, you know, the progressive and growing nature of where Auburn is, but where, you know, it's quickly headed to. So it was, you know, our intention from the beginning to develop a brand that was in and of itself, you know, one that Auburn could own from a business development standpoint, but really focused again on that dichotomy that Lisa was talking about in terms of paying respect and homage to the past and the successes that have grown and come from Auburn, but really, you know, also looking ahead to the future as well.
I would point out that phrase, if you will, not only talks about or refers to tourism, but it also refers to industry and the rich history of the industrial part of Auburn, and the businesses that started here and made the city great to begin with.
If I could offer something for consideration, I hear you, Jim. I'd also like to just offer an observation. I guess I kind of want to make sure I'm understanding where we're going. First of all, good job. And you know, if I'm understanding this this correctly, the feedback seems to be inviting this campaign to be future in its orientation. And I kind of talked about this before, but this is just Gwen speak. So that it's honoring sort of what Jim's talking about, right? That this is a community that's really, its economy, its economic development life has been grounded in some historical kinds of manufacturing businesses. And this feedback that you're getting resonates with me as that there's an opportunity to leverage that history and position ourselves as this new place to go in the future. Am I picking up what you're putting down?
You are.
Okay.
You
nails
are.
it perfectly.
Great. So from that thank you, Terry. Let me finish this thought. So from that perspective, Jim, I think without literally saying history's hometown, that point can be made in narratives and copy and words that will be used to drive this campaign. And then Terry, go ahead and speak, and then I have another thought, but I can hold it.
Well, I mean, it really fits with what you were saying,
I
Gwen.
got the impression that it was going to be, it wasn't something that was going to be considered as part of the overall presentation, and I think it's extremely important that be incorporated. It doesn't have to necessarily be in the logo, but it does need to be pointed out that it's not only history as far as tourism goes, but it's history as far as economic development goes.
Yes, if I may, and I think with what Gwen is saying, and I got it from the logo, in the sense that if Auburn's slogan, if you will, is history's hometown, it does look to its rich history, and I see that in here because the typography itself is definitely alluding to our past. Just the way that the typography is rendered and drawn, that refers to it. Where possibility takes root, the word root refers to the past, but yet when using the term where possibility, which possibility is the future. So I think, without coming out and saying it, as Gwen said, I'm basically re-saying what Gwen's saying. I think it refers to everything that you would like it to be, without stepping on the toe of an already brand that's doing its own thing. And I only say this as a graphic designer, as somebody that works in this, and so I see there's value in implying that without coming out and saying it. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Thanks, Terry. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that these are all really, really great points. And I'm actually really happy that we were able to run with this approach, and that, Tracy and Devin felt positively about it as well, because what it comes down to is there are many, many small cities across the country that do not have what Auburn has. Does not have the history, does not have all of the different cultural institutions and the different things to do, does not have the food and beverage. There's so much. And so when coming up with a tagline, it's almost like all they have to work from is something aspirational. So it's really important to us that we made darn sure that tagline had something to do with the past, because it is so rich and so important to Auburn.
And I think the possibility, Terry and Gwen absolutely nailed it in terms of our thinking and process and coming up with this. In terms of those two words, the possibility, looking ahead, and the root, again, Lisa talked about, but we're going through the toughest time that we've ever gone through in terms of the pandemic, and the fact that 11 new businesses have opened doors in Auburn during that time, I think speaks to the true essence of the word possibility. that the Auburn is bringing to the table. And that's, it's such a strong driver in terms of where the city is already headed, but the potential that it has in the future, again, grown from the roots of all of the past successes and historical significance of the city itself.
That's right. Yep. Great. Well, we'll look forward to much more feedback, I hope, from everyone. And, whether it's directly to us or via Tracy and Devin, we definitely, really appreciate the feedback and the conversation. It's really important that we make sure that that we do this right and that everybody's heard. So what I'll do is I'm going to hand the mic over to Gav, because I know that we don't have a lot of time, and I just wanted him to be able to talk about the marketing tactics as we look ahead. But when you take a look at the report, there's colors and typography, and we're also going to be working on some additional design elements as well to complement the primary logo. And that will be coming probably within the next few weeks. All right.
Great. So the next big chunk of this plan that will give a brief overview, as brief as we can, just kind of walking through the different sections, is the marketing strategy. So having worked through and in the process of finalizing the brand strategy, all of the creative, the brand guidelines, and the ID kit that is part of that process. It's basically, okay, we've developed this. Everybody is in agreement, or will be in agreement soon. Everything will be packaged up. Now what do we do with it? So that's where the marketing plan comes into play. And we call this a brand activation strategy. So basically, how do we get this out to the right audience? And these are the tactics that we think are going to do the best job of doing that. So just to give a really quick overview, the first thing we do is lay out the program objectives. So really two key objectives here in terms of the marketing side. Obviously, exactly what I already mentioned, getting this out to as many of the right eyeballs as possible, and getting buy-in and advocacy for the new city brand as it pertains to business development, and also positioning Auburn as a great place to live and work as well. And then the second, obviously, driving actual engagement and information capture. So, the more traditional kind of direct to lead generation, getting people to reach out directly to AIDA and CEDA, to give email addresses to start conversations. That more direct approach in terms of, hey, I've seen this brand, I've learned a little bit more about this city. Let me reach out and find out if this is a place that I want to relocate my business, relocate myself as a remote worker, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really important for us to set those baseline objectives first before we go into the tactics. And Lisa, if you just want to run through, basically what we do is lay out a lot of the tactics in terms of where we see this heading going into 2021. So the first is the process that we're kind of going through now, which will be wrapped up, which is the brand activation and awareness program. The second is the website development, which is the bulk of the phase 2 program. Which we're really excited about. We've already started with the wireframing process and kind of developing internally within TGW of how we think that's going to lay out. I think it's important too when we talk about, and to Terry's point, kind of that more vintage and historical, kind of more traditional typeface that we're going with. I think you'll really see how that's going to complement a really technologically forward website and digital presence, really positioning and catering to a lot of those those types of industries and targets that we really want to be speaking to. And we think that brand will really complement a very modern and sleek and user-friendly website that we're really excited about building and delivering. And then you'll see, again, you're going to be handed over this presentation, but we talk about things like inbound marketing. So this is things like developing blogs, developing downloadable PDFs, fact sheets that have, financial information, all of these types of kind of a give and take. So we're going to be giving out to the world a lot of information about what makes Auburn great, and with the expectation of, kind of getting contact information in that initial engagement with these folks. So things like inbound marketing, email marketing, a lot of, if you're familiar with a marketing plan and tactics, this is kind of, all of the ways that we intend to, with obviously Devin and Tracy, get the brand out there. We have an ambassador program that we talked about using some of the success stories and the folks, many of whom are on this panel. So expect a call from us in terms of getting you all engaged, but really, using individuals who have had successes in the city of Auburn from a business perspective, gathering testimonials, gathering videos. Again, no better voice to get out into the world than those who have had successes here, because it's kind of, if they've done it and they've done it in Auburn, I can do it in Auburn as well. An idea of a podcast. So again, kind of just a different avenue and medium in terms of getting out these stories. When you read the branding summary, one of the very first things that you'll see is the importance of storytelling in this brand, especially, when we talk about balancing the history versus the present and future of Auburn from a business development perspective. Sometimes audio is a really great way to get that word out as well. So you see a lot of different tactics to, coming up with a full marketing mix in order to get it, this brand activation program. So much like, for the business owners and you, just like you would market your business and develop tactics around that, developing marketing tactics for the brand in the city itself. So the next section is the content strategy. So one of the things that we really rely on heavily at TGW, and really, any content-driven firm that you work with, is developing really strong content that can be used within all of those different marketing tactics that we just ran through. So one thing we do is right from the beginning, based on those objectives that we've already talked about, building the brand awareness and driving direct response, we set up different, we call content buckets. And this is just content topic areas. And Lise, if you want to jump to the next slide, just kind of gives an overview of the different types of content topics that we've developed. So our core that we landed on are, the brand assets and storytelling, exactly what I just talked about, kind of the why behind the brand and what makes Auburn Auburn from a business and residential perspective. Talking about those business spotlights and success stories, talking about the more nuts and bolts, so the financial incentives, the available sites, a lot of these different we'll call them the non-sexy brand assets. That's hugely important information, and something that should certainly be included when we're talking about content development. Talking about Auburn in general and the natural assets, the river that runs through it, all of the the great greenery, the lake, the Finger Lakes in general, hiking, all of these natural assets that make it what it is from an earth and environment perspective. Talking about things to do, we are primarily talking to businesses, prospective workers, but one of the things through our research and in our experience in the past that really drives decision making in this world is, could I see myself living here? Could I see my family here? I want to know what's going on in the city before I even think about making a decision of relocation or growth or, again, remote work. So that includes talking about events, different resource highlights, and then again, to land on that testimonial, we see that as a really huge factor in the content development for the marketing program moving into 2021. So when you read through these, a lot of different detail and examples of each section. The next section, we love to analyze and tie metrics to all of these tactics. So you'll see, and we'll breeze through these really quickly, but different areas and measurements of success from an analytical perspective for each of these tactics. So this is where things like website performance, Google Analytics, if we talk about paid media, measurement from all aspects of the marketing perspective. And you'll see on the next couple slides, we just go into detail of, pinpointing what those are, because when we set these out beforehand, we can always, as the program's running, refer back to this and check out to see how we are doing. And then finally, we have a pretty robust timeline for the full year of 2021. And it's probably too small to see on your screen right now, but just lays out all of the tactics that we've defined as potential and strong recommendations from our perspective. And then the pink bar just essentially shows either when they're in action or the estimated completion month of the year. So again, super high level brushstroke of the marketing plan and the brand strategy, but happy to answer any questions. And to Lisa's point, we're excited for you all to get this in your hands and spend some time digging through and reading through in detail and providing feedback to everything. But happy to answer any initial questions that you all have tonight.
I don't have a question. I'll make a comment if I may. There's a couple things that jumped out to me, especially with the logo and the branding. The word possibility. I left here at 17, went in the military, chose to come back home. And I can't tell you the amount of people that said to me, why are you doing that? Why would you go back to Auburn? Why would you go back to Auburn? I saw the possibility. And this doesn't, I'm not intending to sound this to be conceited, but I've been very successful. I work for a very good company. I've been involved, on boards. I've been involved in city council. I have 2 kids that I've raised here. Both are finding much success. So I love the word possibility.
Great.
If I've learned anything from Councilor Cuddy, it's that font matters. And I love the font. I think it jumps out at you, but it also draws you in at the same time. So, and root, that word roots or root, I say to people all the time over the last 8 months, we've got a great foundation here. And you mentioned new businesses starting up in a pandemic. I'm not discounting the fact that people are struggling. We all know that they are, and that there's more struggles ahead. But I believe to my core that we're going to be okay. We'll get through this. And it's because of that strong foundation and the strong roots of this community. So I love it. I think it's great.
Thank you, Tim.
Thanks so much. And we're going to come back and record all of the testimonial that he just ran through for use in marketing. So it just heads up.
Don't worry, we're already recording it.
Perfect.
Tracy, this is Gwen. I'm curious as to your general reaction to it. And one of the things that strikes me is that the personas are not necessarily, this isn't a negative, it's just an observation, aren't the personas that I think folks in our community are traditionally thinking about when we are seeking to invite people to work, live, or play here. And I find that really interesting. So how does that sit with you, Tracy?
Yeah, I think that we appreciated these personas, particularly looking at, I think Cornell Zach, is that his name? And FLX Frank, was that the other one?
Mm-hmm.
Those 2 more business entrepreneurship perspectives were interesting to look at, because a lot of times we talk about people coming back to the area who grew up here, and these folks have an interest in the Finger Lakes, but maybe they didn't grow up here. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't, and they're more focused on, okay, what does being here mean for me as a business owner? So I think it's interesting to look at those personas, and I don't think they're out of line with what we're truly looking to reach. So I'll let Devin add, but I like these personas because I do think they're hitting on the types of folks that we're looking to attract right now. And, we've been kind of a pain, but we've been very detail oriented in this process, but, the strategy and the strategy and the personas we have been very impressed with. And Devin?
Yeah, I'll second all of that. And I apologize if there's any lag. I'm having some technical stuff on my end, but the remote Ryan is also, I feel, key persona right now because of where we're at and how folks are looking for places to live and work in a remote setting. Yeah, and there's a one or two or three, maybe all of them that you know have interest in outdoor activities, which I feel, especially when there's a remote worker, that's what people are looking for, and that's what we have a lot of year-round outdoor opportunities.
Yeah, and I'll add that FLX Frank or Finger Lakes Frank may or may not be based on a real person.
See, I actually had the same reaction in terms of looking at this through an economic development lens, that those two personas really resonated with me. I guess, I would just say this too, that we have to kind of see this, maybe I'll offer this up to TGW, as much as an external marketing effort as an internal education effort, because I think Jim's earlier comments really represent this interesting tension that we sit in our community in terms of business development. So I think there's a really exciting opportunity to introduce this in a way that talks people through the process and why you're choosing to go after this particular type of business, because I don't think it's as easy for people to see the positive impact that kind of business or business person can have on an economy as it is to look at a Courier Plastic and see it. And I think that's sort of, to me, the joy and the challenge in this campaign, but isn't that what initiatives are all about? And the other thing is that I think the palette, I experienced the font is very historic when I first looked at it, but I think the color palette, me and Terry have been around these tracks around where they're like, we don't care. You'd be shocked to know that I have people in my company like, do you want yellow, blue, blue, blue? I'm like, I don't care. I just want blue. So know that I'm not into the DNA of it. But I do think if I just look at it, from 60,000 feet, but the color palette will allow you to bring a modern feel to it that people just will absorb in a subconscious way. So that's really exciting to me. I think the interesting part of this is going to be to help us convince ourselves that this is the kind of future we want in our community, as it is to inspire other people to come here and see it that way. And I think that creates an exciting challenge. But what's of most important to me right now, Tracy, is that the personas resonate with you and are in alignment with the kind of data you see coming out about who we want to target as the audience for this campaign.
Yeah, and there's a lot of talk about leveraging higher education a little bit more. So I think that Cornell Zach persona is going to help with that aspect as well.
Yep.
I have a question about the presentation. Is that going to be made available to the board?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. It's 90 pages, so get ready, Jim.
Does anybody have any further questions? I'm sure that this has been a great presentation, and I really enjoyed it. I know you're under time constraint, and that's why I think that it'd be a good idea if we all looked at the presentation again, and if we come up with some ideas to pass them on to you. Anybody have anything further?
I do. I'm sorry, I'm talking a lot about this, but I need to remember it while I can, because I may not in 10 minutes. The other thought that I'm having is that I'm equally interested in knowing what my colleagues might not like about this, right? If there's something in I don't assume that silence is liking or approving. So I think it's important that we talk about things that don't sit with us well about this too. And so I think when we have a chance to go through the whole 90 pages, that might come up for us, but I'm not assuming that we're all on the same page about this. And I think it's really important that we talk about everything before we greenlight TGW to do something moving forward. So I think, Tracy, that could happen maybe, at an upcoming meeting. And I think we should create some space to really talk about it all, because we all live here together and we kind of know what could go down. We want to make sure the right thing goes down. So I want to let you know that, colleagues, that I'm excited about it, but I also want to know what we might not like about it. And then that will also, I think that information will be as important to TGW as me, like, I'm digging the color palette. Well, like, that could be so what to somebody else. So I'm curious about that.
Yeah, so when you get the presentation, I would say, in particular, obviously take a look at all of it, but definitely look at the SWOT analysis and some of the challenges and see if you agree with that kind of section of it, because that's kind of the basis of the research. And so we're interested to hear about your thoughts on the SWOT analysis in particular, or I am at least.
Absolutely.
I think the more
Yeah.
the more we look at it, the more comfortable we'll get, and have everybody come on board once they feel comfortable. So I didn't hear anything that tonight, that any comments tonight that really stuck out as people were not on board. So I think we're moving in the right direction, and it's a great job. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, we really appreciate the time and the opportunity. I know you're all extremely busy, but just to, be able to give a snapshot of what we've been up to over the last couple of months, we're extremely grateful for not just the two of us, but our entire team.
Yes.
We're putting a lot of effort into this, and certainly need the communication and open lines of collective agreement to make this successful after this branding process is done. So thank you all so much for being participants in this process, and there will be more to ask of you later, including that great testimonial. I'm going to come back to that. So, but thanks in general. We appreciate that.
Yes. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks. Talk to you tomorrow, Tracy and Devin.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. The next item on the agenda, new business or unfinished business. The board self-evaluation forms. Are we complete with those now, Tracy?
I believe we're still waiting on a couple. Taylor has the exact number.
Okay. Please, whoever it is.
I've only received 3 of them.
Oh, we're waiting on a few.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Please, I know in your busy day that it's difficult to remember all of that, but I would appreciate it if you would get those in, because they are a good tool. See the staff update. Do you have anything, Tracy?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention a few quick things. One is that this is Meg. She's our new business development specialist at CEDUS. She works with small businesses and entrepreneurs. Meg, do you want to just introduce yourself real quick?
Sure. Well, Tracy just told you I'm the new BDS specialist at CEDA. I live in Ledyard. I've been here about 10 years. I was sort of sad to hear us described as the unsexy nuts and bolts aspect of the marketing plan, but that's us. My background is in administration and business startup and supply chain, and I'm very excited to be working with you. And if you have any questions, let me know.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
And then just really quickly, I wanted to keep you up to date. The DRI Small Project Grant Fund is available right now. The full applications are due January 18th. So this is available to businesses, entrepreneurs, and property owners in the DRI boundary, the Downtown Revitalization Initiative boundary. Those application materials are on our website, and I believe Taylor sent them out to you when they were released. So that is underway. We're getting a couple of applications for the COVID-specific funding, but I think the main application is going to be the big one in terms of getting the funds out there. CEDA has also just launched a Shop Local campaign that is highlighting businesses, retailers, and restaurants in particular from around Cayuga County. We have a print, digital, and now radio component to the Shop Local campaign. If a business wants us to highlight them, they just need to fill out a form online. There's a Survey Monkey that has their business information and upload a logo. And if they fill that out, we're going to prioritize small businesses first, so businesses under $300,000 in revenue annually. But if we have spaces, we'll highlight anybody that submits. So if you know any businesses that could benefit from some free advertising, because who doesn't love free advertising, please do send them our way. They can find the information on CEDA's website. If they just search Shop Local, it should pop right up and they can get to the form from there. And lastly, we did host a restaurant roundtable. You might have seen the article about it. Just getting restaurants together to talk about current and changing regulations. We're also going to be planning another series of industry and sector specific informational sessions and discussion sessions. And Gwen has been very helpful in wrapping my head around how to do this. So that did kind of start to come to fruition this week with the restaurant roundtable. So keep an eye out for those as we move forward, as we get into other sectors as well.
Tracy, do you see any specific grants or programs that you see coming in 2021? I know it's going to be thinner than normal for a lot of those, but is there anything to keep an eye out for as far as programs or grants coming down the pipeline? You see?
We are anticipating that the federal government will do another stimulus package. When that happens is the question. We do think that they'll do another round of PPP and some additional funding through that mechanism. There might be some others in there too to support specific like tourism and transportation type industries. There may be specific funding for specific industries that are particularly hard hit, but it's hard to tell until they pass something. But it does seem like they're heading in the right direction, and maybe we'll pass something sooner rather than later. We've been saying since August.
Yeah.
So
it sounds like the new COVID deal, which they're very, very close to finalizing, will have that stimulus package in it.
Yeah. And then
the individual stimulus.
Yeah, and we are trying to get the word out about PPP. Anyone who received it already, there could be some small tax implications related to that funding and the forgiveness. So any businesses that received it should probably chat with their accountant, because Congress might or might not fix it. It just has to do with not being able to deduct expenses that were paid with the PPP funds that were forgiven. So there could be a tax liability there if the business, for a business that lost a ton of money this year because it was 2020 and only got a small amount of PPP, it's not going to impact them. But for someone who maybe did okay but still had the PPP, they could increase their tax bill for 2020. So we're just encouraging those businesses to talk to their accountants, talk to their tax preparers so that they can be prepared for that tax bill should that not get fixed in the stimulus package.
Okay. Anything else?
I'm all set.
I
Okay.
would just Jim, I'm sorry. This is on my heart to say. So please hear this from my place of intention. But as a woman president and CEO of a small private sector corporation, when I looked at the mission of our effort, it really resonated with me that in my work, what I really understand is that people hear what we say, but they only believe what they see us do. And an observation I have as a woman entrepreneur in this community is that there is growing comfort to be very disrespectful in public ways towards women leaders. And the most recent example of that was a county legislator referring to our director of public health as a bitch. And I want to offer for your consideration, when that happens, what I imagine is, because I travel on business all the time, if I was in a community and I picked up a newspaper and read that happened, I would be really wondering, like, what the hell is going on here? So, Jimmy, when people are asking you, why do you move back? I will be honest with you, my colleagues, people always ask me, why do I live here, right? And so I'm just saying, we all have to take our respective positions about this. I am talking with a growing number of women leaders, women business owners, and entrepreneurs. And we are deeply concerned not only about the specific impact that's having on our colleague, Kathleen Cuddy, but I'm also want to offer for our consideration, because we're in the business of attracting businesses to our community, that we need to pay attention to this energy. And, I'm not here like to start a revolution, but y'all know I can. I'm not inviting you to join the revolution, but I do want us to be sensitive to that dynamic because first of all, it's not okay at any level. It's inappropriate. And contrary to, I think, a lot of popular belief, there are a lot of women doing business in this community, and we're bringing all of my money comes back into this community as that of my colleagues. I am the immediate past president of the Wise Women's Business Center, which delivers service to a number of women entrepreneurs in this community. And just to make the point, at our 10-year anniversary, we were able to calculate that the women entrepreneurs who come through that center from its inception put $60 million into the regional economy, and that number is growing. And so I just think those of us who are here in the business of creating a business community that allows us to attract businesses need to recognize that many businesses are now being headed by women. I'm one of a few women CEOs in our community. And thirdly, that it's completely inappropriate for any person, any of our male colleagues, to be publicly referring to any of us as a bitch. And I just think we have to be mindful of that as we're rolling out something that says, come to Auburn and live, because people are always asking me, why the hell do you live there? And I tell them, right, I have a story about why I live here. But I just feel that it's important for me to speak to this. And Jim, it may not be the direct work of AIDA, but we all know people who are sitting in rooms with, to be unnamed. And I think we just need to make that point because we are all on this same path. I think we need to understand more deeply the data about entrepreneurship, who's running businesses. And I'm just here on the record to say to my colleagues that as a woman president and CEO, I'm not going to tolerate that. And I want to invite you as the Men Who Get Me list to try to understand why I'm taking this position and that it's not okay from an economic development point of view. Thank you for allowing me to say that.
This is Roger, and I just want to assure you that I'm with you. And I think what has to happen at some point in time, we're going to have to start getting serious about things. And what Dennison, I see, first of all, you have to name the jerk. And he certainly is reflective of the, let's say, below average county legislature that exists out there. And certainly reflective of the 126 nincompoops in Washington who chose to sign on to that goofy judicial challenge. So it happens not only and what we control is locally, but I couldn't agree more that it's time to raise our voices. He has gotten away scot-free years and years and years. Should not be in the legislature, should have been kicked out as quickly as that issue arose. And so I just want you to know that I'm a strong supporter of the ideas that you just talked about.
Thank you. And let me be clear, because I do think this could play out as a political conversation, and that's not what it is for me. What it is for me is, what are we saying to the community about women leaders and women business owners when we allow a leader, I don't care what party they're affiliated with, because frankly, when we're experiencing sexism, we're experiencing it from men from across political parties a lot of times. I think that's an economic development issue. And I just want us to be aware of it. I have personally been on the receiving end of some of this specific person's things. And I will share with you publicly that following my campaign, I had a personal safety. It's not the first time I've had a personal safety issue, but I had a personal safety issue after my campaign simply for being the kind of woman I am and the kind of woman entrepreneur I am. And more of my women colleagues are expressing to me that they don't feel physically or mentally safe in their own community as they conduct their business or do their work. And I personally think that's an economic development matter that I'm just inviting you to keep an eye on. And I'll allow you to disown me. You better not. As a former CEO, he'll bail me out. But I just want to offer that up, that I don't think we can be naive about that. And I don't want that to sit as a political conversation, because I respect the diversity of our political points of view. I want us to keep that in mind as an economic development issue for the community. So thank you so much.
I would not have a problem in writing a letter on behalf of AIDA to the chairman of the county legislature to ask to have it read into the public record that the impact of his statements on economic development and in this community are far-reaching, and that we don't believe that forwards our goals, something to that effect. We can put a letter together, but I don't have a problem with doing that. I think something.
I'm assuming that all of my colleagues here feel the same way about it that I do. So I don't want to impose anything on you, Jim. If you decide that I would invite you to speak to people, but
He seems to feel free to continue his remarks because the first time he just had his hand slapped. I think that this man needs to be brought to bear completely for his actions. You just can't do that sort of thing.
Yes,
I agree with you, Jim.
Totally
I
understand.
I agree. I second Jim's letter proposal. So
I third it, so.
Fourth.
thank you so much, because I'm deeply concerned that we don't feel safe to do our work in our community. I wound up going to the police department about my situation. And again, it's not the first time I've had a personal safety issue here, but I wound up also putting security cameras all over my house. And so, and I'm going to tell you that a growing number of women business leaders and women leaders in this community are taking those kinds of steps. We're not going places by ourselves. We're doing all of that. We're meeting up behind the scenes. So, Jim, again, I'm not assuming that all of my colleagues support that, but I'd ask you to reflect on that, especially if you have daughters, wives, and mothers in your families. That this will be your daughter, because you're raising her to be somebody. So thank you so much for allowing me to say that in this context.
No, I think that's very important. I'm glad you brought it up, and I don't think that any thinking person would believe that his actions were warranted or acceptable.
And I think, working through going back to the place branding, having a carve out for highlighting all the things you mentioned, that, we are a small city, yet we have, women and minority CEOs, business owners, whatever, thriving and growing and living in the community, that having that so people from exterior can see that it's here and it's available to them, and they'd have peers if they moved into the area, all those kind of efforts.
And I bring all of my clients here. I make them come here to meet me, especially my executive coaching clients. I do a lot of my business here on purpose because I love where I live. And it's cool that Harriet Tubman's from here. My clients are very diverse. I work with most of my clients are men, as a matter of fact. But I just want to offer that up. I just imagine being in this community, thinking about bringing your business here, and you read that a county legislator done called the public health director a bitch. It just doesn't make sense.
I'll put something together and get it out to everybody to take a look at it.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything further? Tracy, do you have anything more on staff?
Nope, all set.
I would like a motion for the resolution ratifying prior adopted policy, standards, and procedures.
So moved, Roger.
I'll second. Jimmy.
Okay. Is there any discussion? We discussed this, that, we've gone over all of the policies and standards and the procedures, and they are up to date, and so we need to make sure that they are have been approved by the board, and that they go on the record that we're up to date on that. So
Yes, the only thing that might need updating in a couple months is the committee, the population of the committees. Ron Lavarnway is still on one of those committees, so if he does step down from the board at the end of the year and someone else comes in, we might have to switch that out, but otherwise, that's the only thing that might be changing later.
well, why don't we try and get that done in the meeting in January if we could? Is that possible?
Yeah, we just need to wait until we know who's going to be appointed for that seat.
Oh, okay. Okay, any discussion on the resolutions? Anything that I'm sure you've all just recently gone over them all again to make sure that they're correct. So if there is no further discussion or changes, all those in favor of accepting?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions carried. Thank you. Is there a motion on the floor to close the meeting? Terry?
Second.
Gwen? Okay. All of those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions. Thank you very much.
Thank
Happy
you.
holidays,
Happy
everyone.
holidays.
Thanks, everybody.
You too. Thank you.
Have a very Merry Christmas, everybody.